The invasion has progressed slower than the Kremlin thought. That could change if neighboring Belarus sends troops to aid Russia. The refugee crisis is also growing. More than 368,000 Ukrainians have fled so far. That's according to the United Nations. The UN will hold 2 meetings Monday and the first emergency session of the General Assembly in decades. It follows dramatic escalation by Russian President Putin, who ordered nuclear forces be put on high alert. Russia is hoping the threat of nuclear weapons will deter the U.S. and others from getting involved. Lucas Tomlinson reports from Lviv.
New satellite images released Sunday show a large deployment of Russian forces near Kyiv. A convoy stretching more than 3 miles long, made up of tanks, infantry, and artillery, advancing on the capital. Frustrated by early setbacks during its invasion of Ukraine, the Kremlin could be shifting into a strategy of siege warfare. U.S. intelligence believes Russia has fired more than 350 missiles at targets in Ukraine, some of them hitting apartment buildings.
The Russians are not going to give up. Putin has been consistent over 20 years that he wants to take over this country and destroy it.
After an intense night of fighting, Kyiv on Sunday stood largely abandoned. More than 350,000 Ukrainians have fled the country since fighting began. So far, the campaign has not yielded any major victories for Russia. And that's fueling the resolve of Ukrainian forces defending their homeland. This brewery in Lviv ditching beer for the time being, choosing to make Molotov cocktails instead.
Everyone is doing what they can and what they know how to. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, Ukrainians over the past few years found themselves in a situation when they had to fight for their freedom.
Western leaders have slapped sanctions on Russia and bolstered their support for Ukraine. The EU agreeing to send more weapons to Ukraine and close off its airspace to Russian airliners. Russian President Vladimir Putin escalating the conflict Sunday by putting his military's nuclear forces on high alert. Despite Putin's threats, U.S. officials say they have no intention to stop shipments of weapons to Ukraine. In Lviv, Ukraine, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
More protests are popping up in Russia. A human rights group inside Russia says police arrested more than 900 anti-war demonstrators today. The group says there were protests in 44 different Russian cities today and more than 4,000 demonstrations since the invasion began.